So in the course of this talk this evening, we're going to just have a brief introduction. We're going to discuss a few things about the role that value system plays in establishing our social connections and other matters into what we make out of them. We're just going to give ourselves a few tips on how to become a purple person. We're going to also talk about how to leverage relationships appropriately, recognizing, for example, I mean, biology. We talk of biological relationships, parasitism, commensalism, symbiotic relationships. How can we identify these types of relationships? And how can we, as a people, not be parasitic? How can we create win-win situations? And I'm just going to make a few final thoughts and conclusions on the topic. So we're going to just start by saying what you see as success can determine your approach to relationships. So we're going to start by just looking at a few things. So, regardless of your view of life, life begins in simple forms. Many of us could be science students, so you could be narrowing down your mind into cells, tissues, organisms, organs, systems, and then the entire organisms. We have actually discovered from our developmental biology that cells can actually communicate among themselves. So, for example, beyond the genetics that make up a cell, environmental factors that influence that is within the environment of a cell receive epigenetic signals. I'm just, putting in a few bit of developmental biology. I'm sure a few people are here, doctors and science students and all of those things. So you understand what I'm talking about. And that, to a great extent, will influence the final outcome of the organism. So it is not just the genetics, but also the environment and the environment genetic interaction. So it therefore goes to say that life is much more than our makeup. It is also about the environment, the connections that we make. Just having a few reflections. Have you thought of the following? The cost of an MBA program at Columbia's Business School, I just tried to dig up a few statistics here, is around $259,000 to complete an MBA at Columbia Business School. At Stanford Graduate School of Business, it's around $240,000. Harvard Business School is around $224,000 for their MBA program. While the same program with the same learning content, you could obtain it in a nearby university within the same jurisdiction. Maybe, for example, Howard University or some of the other not as prestigious as those schools for maybe even $4,000. Then you have $200,000 saved up for something else. Why is it that the membership of elite golf clubs, golf courses, we know of the Ikoyi Club in Lagos, Nigeria, and many other places like that, cost millions? I wrote here, I said golf membership often come with every price tags due to various factors: exclusivity, maintenance, community, tradition, amenities, and of course the services. We see, therefore, when we compare the issue of being a member of these clubs and having an MBA degree from Harvard, from Stanford, from Columbia on your CV, people pay much more to access social connections than they're actually paying to acquire learning. Do you now see the reason why at the end of our CV, we have what we call references? Who are your social connections that we can, bring on board that can vouch for you before we commit to giving you this job? It's because many of the time we apply for technical jobs. If you are applying for jobs that are kind of more of your human person, more of your social person, rather than your technical skills, then you understand why referencing is actually sometimes much more important than actually the content of your education and your experience. The true premium in elite institutions often lie in access to networks, access to prestige, social capital, and influence. The same is true for high-end clubs. So developmental biology shows us that even in the womb, context matters. Cells differentiate based on external signals. Human beings are social beings. And of course, we carry this forward to life. So we'll ask, who is your father? Where are you coming from? Who are you? All those questions is basically trying to probe into the social connections that have been built into you before now. Just by way of defining a few of the things, when we talk of social connection, we're talking of belonging to a group, being close to others, the quality of the relationship, the size and diversity of your social network, and the functions that this relationship are serving you. If you have the telephone number of Jim or Jim Hovia or Aliko Dangote, you could have the phone number, you may not be in a position to make a direct call. You have his phone number. It's a social connection, but you can't dial to him and access him. You could probably have gotten the phone number from somebody else. You could even check, you probably be a bank staff, you have accessed his personal bank account, you pick this phone number there, as compared to somebody who has a direct access to him. And of course, when we talk of success, and the reason why I'm just trying to define this is how we see success can actually determine how we use these social connections. Some people define success as a journey, progressive increase in impact, attainment, and position. Some see success as what they can achieve now, not minding what tomorrow will be. For others, it is continuum. And so they are not willing to trade off certain things to get short-term gains because of the long-term goal of their definition of success. So some people want to succeed by all means at the risk of their family, for example. To some other people, they would rather not see that as success. So sometimes our shape, our view can influence how we succeed. Looking briefly at social connections, the World Happiness Index, I was just browsing through how much of our social connection affect how happy we are. Anybody who have lived in Africa very well, who have lived in Europe as well, can actually attest to this to a great deal. That our social connections can determine to a great deal our well-being. Negative trends in well-being among young people in Western Europe, for example, that's the happiness report. North America is in contrast to positive well-being relating to social connections, like people from Southeast Asia, for example, and Sub-Saharan Africa. So over a 10-year period, they found out that social connections have a direct connection to well-being, and well-being, for example, will determine the onset of things like dementia, things like Alzheimer's disease, and the rest of it. So when we talk of happy people, I mean, we can see success from that point of view. Being satisfied, being happy, being fulfilled, being blessed. The kind of social connection that we have will determine. I mean, if there's anything again that determines somebody's success or well-being, it is marriage. So our marriage experience, education, work, religious engagement provide platforms to connect with others. And that is the reason why we give ourselves into these things often and often. They are not just platforms. They create connections that enrich our learning. They enrich our learning. They shape our perspective about life. They also shape our values. There's somebody say, I mean, you probably have heard this saying that if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go with somebody. So it means in life, if we are going to really go far in many areas, we need people, genuine people in our life. So we're going to just look at how some of our value systems. I wrote here, I said, are there old classmates, playmate, friends that you are no longer in communication with? What went wrong? Not who was wrong. We're not interested in who did what, but what actually happened. Why am I meeting certain category of people? How can I begin to make the right social connections with certain category of people? People always say again that rich people connect to rich people. You see them getting married, marry their daughters off to their sons and the like of things. People also say money attracts money. How can me, an outsider, penetrate that link and join them? If money only connect to money, how can I move from where I am into that connection? Who you are determines who you attract. Somebody said in a particular, we said, hurting people hurt people. So somebody who is coming out from an emotional roller coaster of relationship, her trust has been betrayed, his trust has been betrayed severally, and is quickly jumping into another romantic relationship, will probably start on the onset of not trusting. And so the next person may actually be a victim as a carryover of the previous experience. Many people focus on looking for the right partner, the right platform, the right connection, the right opportunity, without spending some time to prepare themselves as the right person for this platform. It was John Maxwell who said, he said, don't send your dogs to Eagle School. So my focus is for us to look at ourselves. How can I be the right person? How can I make myself ready? How can I not carry a gloomy face all the time? How can I not be the one to, you gather 20 people here and then the person that is perpetually causing trouble is me? How can I not be that kind of person? How can I be the bridge builder? When they say, who heard from this person last? How can I always be there to say, yeah, I spoke to him, we chatted, we did this, we did that? Not because you want to make a name, but because you have become that kind of person who is usually available to others, who is usually open to others. So the social connections and our value systems matter. So we look at a few things. Our genetic predisposition. You have no choice over how you were framed, but you have the capacity to moderate your character. So, for example, people who have self-esteem issues, it is your responsibility to identify that because it could affect you in your social connections with people. People who often use a hammer to kill a fly. People who take matter. No, this matter is not too. I mean, it's just a small discussion we're having here. You've already blown it out of proportion. Those are people, we use the word red flag. How can you identify that? People make mountains out of molehill. Life experiences. You've been betrayed in the past. You are coming from abusive relationship, difficult family backgrounds. All of this can affect our social connections and the value systems we take into them. Our attitude and choices and experiences. And if there's anything, particularly as we get into that age where we are having children, we're always mindful of their friends. We're always mindful of the people they play with. We're always mindful of what they do on social media. Why? Is because we want to moderate their social connections. We know that these things can actually shape life and destiny. Your friends, peer pressure is no joke. Friends determine how many of the choices we pick up in life. Somebody said, I wrote it, they said the difference between who you are today and who will be in 5 years will be the people you spend time with and the books you read. So you see, this will kind of make us. And whether you have been properly made or not will then determine how you utilize the various value social connections that becomes open to you. The way you view others, even before you connect to them, is determined by who you are. Don't focus on others yet. Focus on yourself. We have to then do a kind of self-evaluation. Elliot Tatler doing drugs, for example, issues of, the lead mentor earlier on mentioned some of the things we hear on the pulpit and how they can actually shape our life, our understanding of what money should be and what Christianity should be for those of us who are Christians, for example. Those things are ways in which we can actually be shaped, and how we are shaped will determine how we value others and how we relate with them. I read a book recently. The title of the book is By the Future by Mensa Otabil. He wrote a few things and I just jotted them down here. He said, if you sit with Esau, you will see success from Esau's perspective. If you sit with Jacob, you will see success from Jacob's perspective. If you look at the story of Jacob and Esau, one was instant gratification. I just want to have it now. I don't care about the eternal consequences. Whereas the other one had value systems for long-term planning. And of course, that paved the way for how their life eventually turned into. There are those who pick up the early morning newspaper, for example, and turn to the sport page. If you are meeting them 5 times, 4 times, they are going to discuss Arsenal, Chelsea, Man U, Barcelona, Real Madrid. It's not bad. There are people, when you meet them, they get a newspaper, they are going to go straight into the financial derivatives. They are going to be talking about the financial forecast. And so if your life is to change what your finances is looking like, between the two, you know who you should spend more time with. And when you evaluate yourself and you evaluate the top 10 people around you, and you see that there is one who is, I mean, maybe majority of them are people all we talk about is sport and betting and, things that do not matter to where I'm going, then you begin to understand that indeed you really need to begin to shape the kind of people you connect with. Do not forget, I mean, the biblical word says, can two work together except they agree? So the take home here is that we must recognize that we carry the value system to who we connect with. Somebody said again, I think Jim Rohn, he said, you are the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. So the community we belong to will, to a great extent, influence how we'll be. Maybe just to share a personal experience to let you know that almost at every stage of my life, every job I've gotten, there have been a very strong input of some of my social connections to either see the job vacancy, polish my application, put a word in for me, recommend me for it before I got it. So it's not just basically my academic attainment, oh, I graduated top of the class, made first class, this and that have actually brought me or to any of those places. So being relationship ready is very important. Being relationship ready, we must do a self-evaluation of ourselves and realize what value system we are carrying into our relationships. So it is not that the rich attract the rich. It is that positive energy attract positive energy. People who are naturally motivated. For example, you meet somebody in your team, this person is 10 out of 10 times well motivated. That person will influence that team. And then you meet somebody who naturally just gives excuse. At the end of the day, when you want to trim down you want to make your team lean, you are likely going to weed that person out. If you are going to recommend somebody in your team for a higher rank or for a higher opportunity, you are likely going to recommend that person. Just by way of politics, pardon me, anybody who is not very much happy with the politics of Nigeria, people like Yemi Oshibajo, Wale Edun, Yemi Cardoso, their name had been mentioned prior to 2015 as top 3 of Bola Ahmed Tinubu's associates who are likely going to be in top positions in Nigeria. In fact, the 3 of them were touted to be potential vice presidential candidates before 2015. Interestingly, Yemi Oshibajo eventually became vice president. Yemi Cardoso, Wale Edun, we never heard of them, served all through Buhari's tenure. As soon as Tinubu came in, the remaining 2 of those guys came on board. Social connections. The president of a country makes more than 1,000 appointments within the first 100 days. How does he know all of these people? No. It is somebody who knows somebody who recommends somebody for there. So it's not just about putting yourself in their good books. It's about being prepared. It's about letting these people know that when it comes to zealousness, when it comes to integrity, when it comes to this, when it comes to that, you know, for those of us who finished from University of Ibadan, you will know this professor, this white guy, what's his name now? Professor, this white guy that finished in chemistry. Anybody can remind me his name?
Professor Wood. Professor Wood.
Professor Wood, thank you very much, bro. People knew him for many things. I mean, because of his stature, his kind of person, he probably wasn't recommended for many appointments, particularly where the person recommending you may still want to, influence your decision making. But there was a time they needed to get somebody to head the admissions committee of the University of Ibadan. And everybody in the Senate said they wanted somebody with integrity, somebody who can help them to make sure that all the external pressures are resisted and the university will get on with the admission process. And everybody overwhelmingly said, Professor Wood is the candidate that can do the job. If what is it that everybody can overwhelmingly say, you are the guy that can do the job? And eventually was appointed. This is coming from a previous Facebook post by the then Vice Chancellor, who actually was the Vice Chancellor at the time. Professor Wood was so recommended. So you see, even when people will not put you in certain positions because they know that not necessarily you are too rigid, they actually, your good works, the values you carry will still not go unnoticed. And when the time comes for it to be needed, just like Professor Jega, people knew him to be, at the time, he was a former HASU chairman, they knew him to be kind of somebody who has the kind of large heart to manage a very critical sector like INEC. Whether his job, you rate it 100% or not, but people knew him to be that kind of person that he will go all out to get the job done, not minding whose source is God. That's the kind of person, and that was how he was recommended to Jonathan, who is a southerner from Ijo, probably never heard of him. Somebody actually kind of recommended him. So being relationship ready, being prepared ourselves for those social connections is important. And I understand the fact that the people among us can be in various, the people around us can be in various shades of people. And so optimizing our environment becomes important. Optimizing our environment become very important. So I wrote, I said, start with an audit of your cycle. Who are the people who possess the qualities you want to cultivate? And then go the extra mile, serve, volunteer, make yourself ready. Do for the right people what they cannot do for themselves. One of the advantages of never working alone is that it brings discipline to your talent. You have people who will wake you up and tell you have not read. There are people who wake you up and tell you have not prayed. You have people who, call you, how is your relationship going? How is your career going? People who will challenge you that you can actually do it better. If you look at athletes, if you look at elite athletes, even football stars, they have the retinue of people who help them to improve and become better at what they do. So whether you want to become fit, build a business, have a better mindset, be successful in marriage, you need the right people around you. If you want to move forward, start with that audit of your people. Replace or limit the influence of negative people in your life because they will not really help you grow. John Maxwell called them, he said, firelighters. People, as soon as you have an idea, they tell you it's not likely going to work. They don't do it that way. People will see, when you share your ideas with them, people will say, do you think you can do it? Remember you did one last year and it did not work. Those are the kind of people you must begin to evaluate and ask yourself. So I wrote a few things. I said, some of the questions are the conversations with these people always revolving around the past or complaints? Earlier on, I was asking, I said, old classmates. When you meet an old classmate, what do? You reminisce on the past. Beyond that, what happens? Full stop. It means you are not likely to carry forward that relationship much, except you guys are able to challenge one another with new ideas. You have aspirations. Do your friends make you feel bad when you choose yourself or your business over them? People who blackmail you, people who try to belittle you. It can even actually be a boyfriend or girlfriend or relationship. You don't have to kill your light because of that person's light to shine. That is not how synergy works. Are you the most successful people or person in your group of friends? By the grace of God, I was telling myself, I said, with the grace of God, having attained certain places where I've been able to, I tell myself, I have friends who are senior registrars in WAEC, people doing marvelously well in their various careers. He doesn't have to necessarily be in my field of academic endeavor. In different walks of life, I have people who are succeeding, whose life can actually be used, to challenge people in my local parlance myself. If your answer to any of these questions is yes, then maybe some of these friends may actually hold you back. If you are the most successful among them, if no one of them is challenging you, do you have a mentor? Me, I don't believe in this idea of having, these days people say we have spiritual grandfathers. I said, no. God is our father. Even when you have a spiritual father, quote and unquote, and that spiritual father has another spiritual father, if you have a direct connection to that person's spiritual father, that person is still your spiritual father, not a grandfather. It's just supposed to be a direct thing. And how do we establish these things? Alumni meetings. We have a mentor-mentee platform like this. Many people have been able to ask somebody. I mean, my father was just telling me, said, this particular justice who was removed the other time, the governor had to bring him back because they were classmates in their secondary school. Social connection. Do not take those platforms for granted. You never know how you will need them. I was working in a bank in Kwara State. I mean, when you work in the bank, you get in 7 a.m. in the morning, you don't access internet to do anything external. The person who sat with me as an ESCO of our faculty association just texted me from Abuja. Festus, NIAS have been established. They have a vacancy. He screenshot, he photocopied the entire newspaper advert, sent it to me, and I applied. Meanwhile, I'd been praying, I'd been looking for opportunity to get a job and leave the banking system. That was how that social connection opened the door of opportunity for me. And then I got a job with Nigerian Institute of Animal Science. When I was going to Abuja for my test and interview, he had to arrange a BQ with his aunt where I slept. That is a social connection. If I didn't stay in touch, or maybe I took that relationship for granted. He will just see the advert, it's not relevant to him, he ignored it. So what is it? When you see a vacancy, think among your circle, who needs this kind of job? Who can I sample this opportunity to? That is how to build for people. Do for people what they cannot do for themselves. Go the extra mile for people. Offer to serve. Join and serve. People are, so those are platforms that can really help you put you, that can help you to actually put yourself in the heart of people. I wrote a few things here. What is unique about each individual? Not looking at the negative side of them. What is unique about each individual and how can I be a blessing to them? I wrote something here. It is told that a young lady went to dinner with two great prime ministers in British history, William Gladstone and Benjamin Disraeli. When she was asked for her impression about the two people, she said, when I left the dining room after sitting next to Mr. Gladstone, I thought he was the cleverest man in England. He said, but after sitting next to Mr. Disraeli, I thought I was the cleverest woman in England. So you see, the first discussion was focused about the man himself in all their meeting. The second discussion was focused about the woman, affirmation. She made the woman feel very comfortable. Her ideas, what you are saying is good. That idea can translate into A, B, C, D, E, F. And then the woman felt, I felt like I was the cleverest woman in England. That is how communication alone can actually make people to have a good impression of you. Somebody said, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Our religious platforms is supposed to also help our social connectivity. I know in a place like Nigeria, sometimes we take this to an extreme, but it is still very, very valuable. Through referrals, connect your friend to your friends. I was reading the lead mentor earlier and say, send this link to your friends. It is opportunity to connect people. When you do for themselves, for them, create opportunity for them to learn to, and that's why people pay huge amount of money to attend MBA annual meetings, NME annual meetings, student in free enterprise programs, academic societies. People pay money to attend learning conferences. And then you go there, you speak for only 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And then you've traveled all the way from Nigeria to England to go and present, or to Canada, to France to go and present. It is because you want to meet people in your field. Whatever potential collaboration that can happen in future, you are looking at it. Social media can also be a platform for social connection. if we use them right. Somebody was telling me recently, said, social media has a strata. If you are 20s or below, TikTok is your main social media platform. He said Twitter is for those in the middle, and so Facebook is for the older ones. Regardless, these are platforms that can create opportunities for you to meet people. I've had people who just tweet after somebody else and they establish connections and they said, hit me in the DM, let's do business together. Just because they interact. So you cannot box yourself in and completely be out incommunicado. The world will move on without you. I was telling one of my brethren recently, I said, Sister Lagbaja, Brother Lagbaja, we've not heard from them for a long time. I said the truth of the matter is, if they have closed themselves away from all social, we too said that we're asking after them, we too we have moved on. When they come back, they will realize that we are no, even if they send us friend requests and we will delay accepting it for 1 month because we too we have moved on. So do not close yourself away from the opportunities of establishing the right social connections, because you never know how much you need. So I was just Googling, I said how to expand your network. And one of the things that came up was Forbes has a 14-step approach. I deliberately did not copy all the 14 steps and just put it here. So I just put the link. And of course, if you type how to expand your network on Google, just scroll through some of those things. It will show you some of those 14 steps that was listed. Some of them include set networking goals. Who do you think you need to meet in terms of improving your spirituality? Who do you need to start listening to more? In terms of finance, who do you think you need to listen to more? Which platform do you need to seek advice? You want to get mortgage? What social Facebook group do you need to join? You need to buy a car. Which platforms can you get more information? Who do you need to connect to that can motivate you? Who do you need to speak to again that can shape your understanding of theology so that you are not swept away with all the doctrines and the mismatch that is being debated on social media? Those are ways that you can actually just reach out, communicate. Those are ways in which, and of course, there are a few constraints that can really help, that can limit our understanding, our appreciation and enjoying the benefit of social connection. Lack of discipline. Be prepared. Every platform you get to, there is an etiquette. There is a way you should dress. People say, no, it's not about the dressing, it's the heart. The truth of the matter is, in life, there is etiquette everywhere. When I got into the UK, I realized to go and see the Queen, there is an etiquette as to how you must comport yourself before the Queen. I keep telling my children, you can't dress anyhow. They will tell you that anybody on the street can dress anyhow, but the children of the king, Prince Charles, Prince Williams, George, Charlotte, they don't dress anyhow. They are grooming them into a mode because of the social connections they belong to. They are preparing them for the throne. They are not preparing them for the street. So we must recognize this thing for our own good. We must be mindful of disruptors of social cohesion where we get to. This can be a great hindrance. Have a niche. You can be broad, but have depth in certain areas. Your depth can be reliability, where you need the job done excellently, where you know who to call. By the grace of God, I've served as, fellowship president, faculty association president. Among my team, I know who to call when it has to be urgent, it is important. I know who can help to get the job done. So just a few thoughts. How do you identify healthy connections that engender success in life? I just mutual enjoyment. You are always looking forward to getting each other. Not that this person is calling you, you are scared of picking the call because you know that it's going to be one way, it's draining, driving from you. Respect. When you're under pressure to attend to this person, when things are hard, but you are committed to protect and preserve it, you still act in the best interest of the other person. That is respect. It has to be mutual. Whether it is a marital relationship you are building, whether it is between even a mentor and a mentee, you are looking forward to talking to each other. It should be shared experiences. And the truth of the matter is, some of your experiences in life, whether negative or positive, God has actually allowed those things to happen because of your shared experiences with the people you are going to meet in your journey of life. Trust, reciprocity. I mean, it is a give and take, win-win situation. Lastly, I just want us to reflect on the story in this Bible. That man whose friends broke the roof and brought him down. Why do you think it was that important to his friend? For them to have been able to dare all the things they did for him, they broke the roof, they brought him down for Jesus to heal. What do you think he must have done for them? Maybe not what he has done per se, but who he is to them. The Bible says they were his friends. So they were not, it's not a father-son relationship, just friendship. It shows that he had built himself, he had a reputation in their heart that they were ready to risk it all for him. You need those kind of people. Somebody said, people that will not let you go down. People will go on their knees and pray for you. People who will be ready to say, okay, for this particular project. I remember when I was planning to relocate from the UK from South Africa to the UK, the moment I got my certificate of sponsorship from the university, I have a friend, I just called him, he's in the UK here. He had just moved to the UK. He said, since I told him about the job opportunity and the interview, he already knew I was going to need some money, that he already saved some amount of money for me to borrow me. I did not, at that night, in the middle of the night, around 1 a.m., he just transferred the money to me, that I should start the process of the visa application, paying for air surcharge. I can never take that kind of friendship for granted. So that is how we bring. In conclusion, success can bring many things: power, privilege, fame, wealth. But no matter what else it brings, with success come options. How we use those options shape our character to benefit others or to benefit ourselves. Even when we close our eyes, the relationship we have cultivated will be the only thing that will remain with us, not our accomplishment. When Mandela was to pass on, he was surrounded by family and friends, social connections. When we transition from this side to the other side of eternity, the relationship we have will be the last thing that seals our fate. Be intentional about this. So whether you're a Christian, whether probably maybe even be a Muslim, your connection, your social connection to your spiritual root will determine your final fate in life. Jimmy Carter said, and I'm going to end with this. He said, my faith demands, this is not optional. My faith demands that I do whatever I can, wherever I am, whenever I can, for as long as I can, with whatever I have to try to make a difference. So you see, making a difference becomes very important in our social connections. And I pray that God will help us in Jesus' name. I'm going to stop here. And the reason is because I want to be able to devote time to some of the questions we may have. I deliberately put a few questions here just for us to reflect and think about, maybe stimulate our discussion, and then probably go from the questions. So I wrote here, I said, is it pious or religious or scriptural or spiritual to disconnect from people who only draw from me but have no value to add to me? So that's the first question. I said, must social connections always revolve around give and take? Are introverts less likely to be less successful in establishing thriving social connections? How do you think introverts can actually be as good in, enjoying good social connections with people around them as others? Is self-care really selfish? And I think that should be, I have many failed friendships. Is this a signal I might fail in marriage or future relationships? I mean, we could be burning in our minds about, reminiscing about some of the friends you have lost in the course of life and all of those things. And then sometimes some of us beat ourselves so much as to why things failed, why things didn't work out the way they should have worked out. Is it about you, and how does that affect going forward from those situations?
Okay, sir.
Thank you very much.
Change with the rubber.
Thank you very much, sir.
Oh, Mama. Before or should I Mama speaking?
Hello, somebody speaking on the.
Why? Who said so?
I'm trying to solve that. I'm trying to look for that. Okay, yeah, I think I found. All right. I think the post has been muted. Don't worry.
Thank you very much, Dr. Dr. Festus Adejoro is not very convenient. Almost ringing in my head over and over. Thank you very much, Pastor Dr. Festus. God bless you for this elicit, elaborate, and highly insightful exposition on social relationship and how we can be successful with it. We're really delightful that you even brought in questions for us. And I really think these questions really go a long way if we can really deal with them. I know if you also have questions, please, you can actually do that maybe by a show of hand or type in your question. We'll always get them send it to. Thank you very much, sir. Lead mentor, you want to say something, sir?
No, yeah, I think I'll just allow people to say whatever is on their mind. It might be a reflection, it might be an appreciation. But I mean, before you even put up the questions, I was already thinking about, okay, how do introverts do this? And I mean, all those questions are really, I feel like you should really try and speak to them. But it's okay to get more questions.
I'm almost feeling like that too, that we just go straight into them.
But so that it doesn't take all the time to let people ask their questions, maybe in conjunction with all of those, you can then speak to them. I think we've had a wonderful session already, but I feel let people feel free to add to it, then we can see how much time we'll have to take all of them.
All right,
so anyone who has a question can unmute and ask, or put in the chat box. If you don't get that within the next 1 or 2 minutes, would assume that people don't have questions, and then we can, encourage our guest speaker to speak to the questions they raised, because some of them are really burning questions. I would have asked about the introvert part. I would have asked about maybe another one that you raised. I can't remember exactly now, but I think those questions are really very, very, relatable, and to be nice to hear about them. But please let me allow that. Mentor Joy, I mean, we have people here. Mentor Inka, yeah, Manuel Dania. I think we have people that can have, I mean, you may have 1 or 2 things. Please go ahead and ask now so that you can take it all together, possibly. Dun, 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 dun.
So as we wait for people to speak.
Yeah, I just want to give a couple of seconds for people to, if you want to choose to unmute to speak. If not, I'm waiting for them to finish typing. If I don't say anything, then you might have to just go with these questions. Then I can say 1 or 2 personal reflections around what he has said as well.
Good evening, everyone.
Oh, Mentola, you can go ahead, please.
Thank you so much for the session. Well, one light bulb moment for me was when he said that our children, you are addressed the way you are dressed, and that boils down to even our own children. So for me, it's a very good reflection for me to have that at the back of my mind. For every time I'm dressing up my children or they are going anywhere, I'm having that. Thank you so much for that great reminder. It's something that parents should also look out for, because it is very, very key. That sometimes it goes beyond, oh, you're wearing designers or anything, but you're dressing well. And for parents too, the children are also looking at what our parents are wearing, and they are copying. They're modeling what we are doing. I pray that God will help us in Jesus' name. Thank you so much to the guest speaker. This is really, really very insightful. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Mentola Inka, for that. That's more of a self-reflection, and really, I'm sure a lot of the things he said, there are many. In fact, we need to listen to it over and over again, and I'm sure the social media team would do it for us to let us know where they're posting. It might be our YouTube page that we posted, but some bit of that can be posted in the platforms that allow some fractions of things. So like on TikTok, we might have a fraction of people posted, but I think the full version, by God's grace, please kindly visit our YouTube page. You will have all of this. Ask him a question. What do you think he has dealt with everything on your mind?
Sorry, I couldn't hear you at some point.
For the final, if there's nobody that is asking a question, then encourage him to take all those questions and then share some personal thoughts and then build the stretch. All right, so
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And thank you to the guest speaker, Dr. Adejoro. I like the way Mentor Samuel Ashaw, Dr. Samuel Ashaw always puts it as in our head is still professors and not Dr. Adejoro. Okay, so I just want to maybe ask this question in the painting of this picture thereabout. You know, there's this thing about the fact that people tend to see that get into a level of frustration when their social circle or the relationships they have cannot stand up to help them when they need help. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like there's this sense of entitlement, just like he raised the question of the fact that must relationships always be give and take. So what happens to people that have this school of thought that when they actually need help, maybe they just embarking on a project or something and they can list 10 people around them and those 10 people are not living up to expectation. So what do you advise? I'm sure it's going to intertwine with that question we reach the fact that must it always be give and take? How do you feel when you have people around you that they can't give you, but they are still in your social circle? You're only the one giving them. What happens to your psychology? That's for the person giving. Now for the person expecting too, you know, I just have to embark on something and I've calculated like 20 people that I know, and none of those 20 are not showing up, or I just have to now be looking up to the holy heavens. You understand? So how do that manage with both the expectation of the giver and the expectation of the taker? I hope our speaker got the question.
Yes, I do. Before I make a comment about it, is this something somebody else want to answer or talk about? Just make contribution about, because there's no valid 100% correct answer to that question. So we're just going to rub minds on it too. I don't want to take the lead in answering. I just want to hope that maybe others can make some comment or contribution to the answering that question. Okay, if others are still trying to think about it, I put myself in a shoe now. I want to embark on a project, say a 10, or let me say 200,000 pound project. And I look within my cycle, or maybe I want to buy, let me not exaggerate to say I want to buy Dangote refinery. I want to buy him out of Dangote refinery. Do I have the social capital to buy it? No. Is that project a real life goal for me? And is it now? One thing about goodwill is that we must build goodwill like a savings account. There is need for us to make some deposit. The deposit doesn't necessarily have to be money. The deposit can be ideas. The deposit can be your track record, where you can draw from. The truth of the matter is how much we can draw from is determined by how much of that social capital we have. So many a time, I would say probably our social capital and our physical capital in our bank account is not enough to execute that project. And so we need to go back to God. That's the truth. I mean, some of you who know me here will know that if I was, let me just say this. I had to, when I got a job at the University of Nottingham as a lecturer, and I resumed. Towards before I resumed, it just dawned on me that Festus, this was the same university you were looking forward to go and do a PhD. And I went back to my email and I was started searching University of Nottingham. And I remember that I did the admission process to a certain level. I was already in communication, but when I looked at it, there wasn't going to be funding. And I didn't have any family property that I could sell to fund that PhD program. And then I didn't have the social capital that can put money down to say, Festus, fly, will support you. What did I do? That project remained in my Gmail account. And then God took me through the journey of going to University of Pretoria for my PhD. And then I got a prestigious postdoctoral fellowship that was what you can call a good factor in my CV, worth being considered for a lecturing job at University of Nottingham. So you see, I eventually came back to that platform, this time around not as a PhD student, but as a lecturer. Many a time we can frustrate ourselves by saying, I want to buy a refinery, but I don't have the social capital and I don't have the money. The truth of the matter is life does not work like mathematics where we just assume we can aim for anything and our social capital can actually get it for us. It's not likely going to be like that in all cases, and that's the truth. However, the social cycle among us can be enough to keep our dreams going. Again, when I wanted to get a job, when I got a postdoctoral fellowship I got in South Africa, I wasn't actually I didn't submit an application within the cycle others applied because my PhD defense delayed and I was back in Nigeria. And so my friend who was in South Africa had applied and submitted. And then they said for some reason he couldn't take it up. And then my supervisor motivated for me that I had a strong profile, I'd published some good papers, blah, 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 that I should be considered. And so I got the postdoctoral fellowship, which came with a very juicy package, as it were. Meanwhile, my friend didn't have any specific status. Today, I eventually transitioned from that postdoctoral job to another lecturing job in South Africa. By the time I was coming into Nottingham, my friend had moved to Canada. And then in our department, a senior lecturer position came up. My friend applied. My experience in Nottingham helped me to prepare him for that job. The interview, everything, we did several coaching sections. And they were very valuable. He got the job. So he is today a senior lecturer in the department. Even me, I'm still a lecturer. And both of us are very, very fulfilled about our journeys. So you see how those social connections are. There are certain demands we place on our social connection that can actually frustrate them out of our lives. Just the way you can be a giver and then the takers, if they are not mindful, they can frustrate you out of their cycle. So if the demands is always, a friend of mine approached me. I'm sorry, I'm sharing these personal experiences. But again, these are some of the things we can relate with. Around October, November, he just sent me a message. Hey, Festus, please, can you help me? I'm in the hospital bed. My child was sent home from school. How does these two connect? He said they've not paid their salary in Nigeria. The child has been sent home from school and he is sick and still on the hospital bed. The little I could send, I sent to him. A social connection. I feel he was worth it. By December, of course, everybody knows that in Africa, you send things to your family members for Christmas, for New Year, blah, blah, blah. So I already had a long list of people and already a budget. And this person just sent me a message, this same person again, that he's still waiting for my Christmas chicken. And I was like, of all the people in my life, who do you think should be entitled to a Christmas chicken, as it were? You should know that if I've met your need, Christmas chicken is not a need. So if you are entitled to it, I should be the one to establish that. And then I just told him, I said, Christmas chicken is for family and very important people that I have already highlighted. I'm sorry. And only very few friends, if any friend at all, got any Christmas chicken from me. So why do you think you are that important to be asking me for Christmas chicken? That went. By March, maybe he blocked me on WhatsApp or he deleted my number or maybe he misplaced his phone. I realized that he wasn't connecting me again on WhatsApp. He went to my Facebook inbox last month and sent a message that he's planning to defend his PhD. He needed 500,000 naira. He needs my help to support that. A day or 2 days after he sent me a message, he's still waiting for my response. What have I done? I have ignored that message. What do I think has happened? He's gradually pulling me away from his social cycle because I am not able to meet all of those demands. And that's the truth. If he had come and say, Festus, I have written my PhD thesis. Can you help me to proofread 300 pages? Against my busy schedule, he probably can still secure that goodwill from me. In between, you ask, do we have any serious discussion about my finances, my career, my family? Nothing. He appreciated the first gift. He said, thank you, just checking on you, but that's all. I knew the next thank you was a prelude to asking for Christmas chicken anyway. So you see, that is where I think social interaction works, that we must be mindful of. There are certain people in our life that may be able to stick and say, I can put my life on the line for you. Even the Bible says, woe unto him that walks alone. All of us need people who can stake their life for us. But if their life is not enough for what is required for us at that time, what then do we do? So I think, life is spiritual. We must be mindful of what goals we set for ourselves and how we leverage our social connections to support our dreams so that we don't frustrate them out of our cycle. I'll just leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for that beautiful response. I'm trying to see our time, and I would like us to actually address all these things already listed on the screen. I don't know if the lead mentor would want to say one or two.
So there's someone that dropped a question. I would like us to read out his question, if you can.
All right. Okay. From Emmanuel Dania, sorry for the way I pronounce the name. For someone who has a high sense of tolerance and patience, at what point do that person know when to break free from a relationship or connection that's only taking and not giving value? As a person of patience, always see the possibility that it may be better. Do you get the question, sir?
Believe you me, I think it will also depend on each one of us. By way of example again, I mean, this take doesn't have to necessarily be money. Sorry, I'm going to be using money as another example. This social connection I had, this person will always send message on Facebook, I will honor it. He will send the second time, I will honor it. I probably have honored it a couple of times. Some days, 10,000, 20,000 naira, thereabout. And then it gradually became that this person will already compose the message plus the bank account and will just send. And sometimes I will completely ignore. And do you know that sometimes I will wake up in the middle of the night or the next day, or maybe you are just coming from church, you've had this message, and the thing will just flip back to your mind. Hey, Festus, I hope you are not failing God by not giving enough, by not this. Some of us have that predisposition to kind of beat ourselves too much, to bend over backwards for people. It's not, society will see it as a weakness. It's not a weakness. There are people who are naturally carers. People want to see others succeed. They don't have it. The only dream they have in life is to see others around them succeed. They can fit into any mood themselves. But the truth of the matter is, let me use the word of Sam Adeyemi. He said, you are not El Shaddai. You have to evaluate and identify where you think you can go. You may not cut off completely, but you have to break that dependency. And the reason is for you and for that person. That person must come to the understanding of even exercising their faith in God. It may help them to exercise faith in waiting. It may help them to exercise how to manage relationships properly. I've had to call one of my students. I mean, this was a student of mine in the university in Nigeria. You know, the person had a need and I was able to meet the need. And this person never came back for several days to even say thank you. I was even afraid that maybe I posted the money to a wrong account. I had to call several times to say, did you receive it? And immediately I called and I started receiving text message, thank you, sir, thank you, sir. I waited and then I called back several months after and I spoke to the person that, see, it's not because of me. For me and you, I have signed up that my relationship with you will be, no matter what you do, I will not cut you off. I can't, I won't. But your connection to other people, you will frustrate those friendships if you don't, break free from that cycle. You can't, it's not forgetfulness. So you see, it can even be your co-worker in the office. You are always the one helping the person to tidy up. You are always the one helping the person to carry, to finish the job. It shouldn't be that way. There comes a time where you let the person understand that it's not for my sake alone, for the sake of your growth, that you must break free. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm not sure. There's a person that came up now. I said, the name is iPhone. Can you please name yourself? And
Sorry,
then
sir.
we can know who that is.
This is Dr. Sam. Sorry, sir.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
How are you now?
I'm good. Thank you,
Please
sir.
rename yourself and then
I will.
introduce yourself to
Sorry.
properly to Pastor Festus.
Yeah, I've not been using the phone for some time, so
Oh,
I'm
okay.
sorry. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm sorry I joined late, but the little I met, I think it's something that I can contribute one or two things. Two things majorly regarding social connections and things like that. I think this particularly pertains to us from Africa, especially we Nigerians. Number one, which Dr. Festus has mentioned, is entitlement mentality. And this is what destroys a lot of social connections that people have, entitlement mentality. When you ask somebody for something, they did it the first time. You come again, you ask for different things. And because you are coming with different needs that they cannot meet, because you feel you are entitled, nobody is entitled to anything. That's just the bitter truth we fail to understand. In the Western world here, the white people, they understand it better. And that is why when they take you on a date, they expect that everybody pays for their coffee or whatever. Yeah. That is strange to us, isn't it? It's strange to us. Because if you take a lady on a date, for example, the lady expects that automatically you have to pay. But a lot of our ladies, when Oyinbos take them out here, and the Oyinbo take you out for a date, and it's saying that you pay for everything you have eaten, it looks strange to some of our girls, but that is it. There's no entitlement mentality. So we should, remove that, because it's destroying a lot of, relationships, social connections that people have. The second thing that I want to quickly mention is gratitude. Gratitude is very important. Many of us, sorry to say, we are ingrates. When you ask somebody for help, they are not able to meet 100%, but at least they're able to solve like 50 or 60% of your problem. But people still badmouth them. I asked him for 1 million. He gave me 500,000. He's my uncle. Why can't he just not give me? All those kind of, it's ingratitude. Those are the things that destroy social connections. So I'm just trying to, reflect on what Dr. Festus has said so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sam. God bless you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Okay. I'm looking at, I think if we look at these questions, it's like that second one as We've dwelt on it a while, and I'm saying if we can quickly look at that first question, sir. Is it pious to disconnect from people who only draw from me but have no value? Okay, I think we have also said something. The third one, are introverts less likely to be less successful in establishing thriving social connections?
I mean, anybody else can try to attempt before.
Anybody can get. Anybody
I mean,
can try and
I just feel if you feel you can speak to it, why not? But after a few seconds, if nobody's unmuting, that shows you want the speaker to speak to it. Is anybody feeling okay to speak to that?
Okay, I would like to say something, sir.
Please go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Okay, for me, I think both extroverts and introverts have their strengths in building thriving social connection. Extroverts are very good at starting relationships and all. And in many cases, introverts are good at keeping relationships. So maybe introverts may just want to observe, they may take their time, but a good number of times they are faithful. So I would say they both have their strengths. Like they say it in Yoruba that we don't have one way to the market. So once we all know our strength in building relationships, then we should maximize that strength that we have. So introverts, extroverts, everyone can be successful in building and establishing the right social connections. Thanks.
Then just to add to that, sir, no matter how introverted anybody is, when they have a need to connect, they will go out of their way and connect. So people with tag introverts, they also have people they speak to. They have their own social circle. It may not be much, it may not be many people, but they have people that they connect with. So to say that they are less likely to succeed, socially, or I don't think is correct.
Right. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. Thank you for sharing those thoughts.
Any other
All right.
thought?
Okay.
Anyone?
Yeah, go ahead. Who is speaking, please?
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Sorry,
Good
I came
evening.
late, but with this last question that was treated, I don't know if you can shed more light into the aspect where the social expectations from introverts. For example, there are some people that they just expect that they have this stereotypic mindset that, oh, if you're friendly, you should be everywhere, you should be able to show, you should be able to communicate it. And
Right.
then such introverts are not able to meet with such expectations, probably in workplace or amidst colleagues, and then is causing, this kind of barrier because the people they're working with, some of them are not having this, they call it emotional intelligence, or they are not able to accommodate their own type of person. In that case, what should such introvert do?
Esther, please, can I ask you what's your surname so that I can know? I have many Esthers, so I just want to know the
Okay,
difference.
I already responded to the
Have
direct
you
message.
renamed? Okay, all right, that's fine. If you've responded, just so that we can keep track of those people that
Yes, this is Olaniran Hester.
All right, thank you. All right. We would like our speaker to speak to this. I think this might be arguably maybe one of the last two things that we'll be talking about because we should be on the home stretch by now. All right, sir. Thank you for sharing that. I think this issue of being an introvert and social connections seems is generating more waves of discussion. So, Pastor Festus, please go on, sir. All right. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. I'm just going to share a few thoughts about it. It's absolutely not exhaustive, and it's actually not conclusive thought about being extrovert. What I have seen and noticed from my own experience is that introverts usually, we tend to see them as being reserved. They do not make connections very quickly. However, they have as much as extroverts, the ability to hold valuable friendships and social connections. And also know that even when they are not the ones to always be the first to approach you, if you approach them and you are not the type of person they want, they will always not keep you in their cycle, or at least in their inner cycle. So, depending on the platform, just like somebody said, each person knows where they talk. However, for us to expand our social network, our social connections, and again, these days, it's not all about talking. So, for example, you could be very good at doing something, and somebody else is recommending you to meet somebody else. It's not all about the quantity of people we meet, actually, but the value of the people we meet and the value of who we are to them. You understand? So, for example, to somebody else, I am just that guy that I have his number. To somebody else, I am that person that if I call in the middle of the night, they will pick my call. So, introverts, they will not be the, let me not use the word loudmouth, make the place bubble, be seen in the limelight all the time. They are reserved. The only thing I'm not 100% sure of is that most of the social connections they make, is it who comes to them or who they want? Again, that can also depend on value systems, where they are themselves. Because you just discover that you meet some people who are very reserved, all the people around them are people that maybe naturally, if they were maybe a little bit assertive, they probably would have weeded those ones out and go all ahead to make new connections. So again, it's about upbringing. Like I said, it's just an opinion. It's something that I've also thought about myself, and I can't really answer completely. But I believe that, I've met quite a number of introverts who, reliable when it comes to ability to hold social connections with people, reliability, dependence, trustworthiness, the right value systems, as good as the extrovert. So it now depends on, again, the social cycles that come into them. Is it what they wanted all the time, or who comes into them? That I probably will not be able to, be emphatic about.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Esther. If I may, just at this point, mentor someone, do you
All right,
have
go ahead.
other things to say? Yeah.
You can go ahead, sir.
Okay, I can go ahead. Okay, thank you very much. So let me appreciate our guest speaker today, first and foremost. Like I said, these are the people that also framed my mentorship journey and mentored us directly when we came in as Jambito. We used to call us Jambito in those days. Was it not Jambite? Because we used to take Jam in those days. That it's a pleasure to have some of those people that were also involved on this platform. So I can say, Brother G, Oyewande, thank you for being here. I could also see, at some point, sorry, I changed my background. Oh, no, really. I saw, I was trying to check the list of people
Hope
that
that's not
were.
Sister Maria. I saw one Sister Maria. I hope she's not the one that.
I could see Sister Maria. I wanted to see if she's still here. Just for her to say something briefly. Sister Maria, if you are still here, these are some of our Oga. Sister Maria is still here.
Yes, I'm still here. Good evening, sir.
Please, it would be nice to hear one thing from you, like 1 minute. Please go ahead, ma'am.
Don't stop believing in yourself, and whatever God puts in your heart, as somebody that is in need of progress, like the speaker said, the journey might bend at times, and then you find yourself in the very same interest that you had in the beginning. But there might have been a reason for that bend. Allow it, and then allow God. God bless us all.
Amen. Thank you so much for your contribution. It's a pleasure to have you, and it's a pleasure to have everyone who came with Dr. Festus today. We know that let me check Okay, they said there are a couple of questions that are still on there that have not been addressed. Please, can you quickly look at that? Is self-care really selfish? I guess that's the question. Then I have many failed relationships. That is signal I might feel. Honestly, I think you should speak to these ones quickly before we round off. Yeah. Sir, please.
Okay, thank you very much. Again, I mean, these were some of the questions that was just coming to my head. I mean, in the course of preparing for this meeting this evening.
Yeah.
Self-care is good, but we must not take self-care to a certain. I understand people self-preservation is an innate nature, but God has actually created us for one another. There is no dream we are building. We must build it in a community. There's no value in you becoming a $1 million person in the midst of all the people around you who are poor. So we must make deliberate efforts to build, not at the expense of compromising our own future. I think that's what I will leave it. So I would say a balance is necessary. A balance between self-care, a balance between pouring ourselves onto people. We're not talking of just money, time, attention, our heart, our passion. You will meet a man who is striving in his career, and then the people around him, his wife, his children, he doesn't bother much about their career, their life, their health. That's not self-care. The people around us also, we must invest in them. And that's the social connection we are talking about. So we must when we are drawing our goals in life, whether my 2025 dream, part of it must include the impact we want to make in the people around us. So that may take us away from the comfort of self-care to caring for others. It's very, very important, particularly as spiritual people. So I will leave it at that. When it comes to relationships, friendships, the truth of the matter is, if you have failed many times, it may actually be a positive thing, because you may actually have several experiences of why things didn't work. It now depends on how you use it. Somebody said 2 people stand behind a prison bar. One saw the seashore, or one saw the sky, and the other one was looking down. Somebody saw, standing beside the shore, somebody saw mud, and the other one saw raw material for building a castle. In the same place, the same sun that melted the wax hardens the clay. Those experiences can actually help you to understand people better. Who knows, you can be a relationship coach to people, or it can help you to reflect on your current relationship or your future one. But some people, it can also be a bandwagon, and then they just carry it forward and carry it forward and carry it forward. And that's why you see sometimes, if you have done driving tests, they usually tell you, once you make one mistake, you must completely separate yourself from that mistake. If not, that mistake will make you make another mistake, and then you fail the test. So that is life. Some of, I was talking about the experience the other time. Some of the experiences of our past, God have allowed it to prepare us for the future. It now depends on if we do that self-introspection. When we now, examine ourselves, recognize why this thing failed. I didn't communicate with my partner well. That was why that relationship failed. I took this thing for granted. I did this, I did that. When you have those documentation in your mind, when you want to make mistakes in the current one, you just flash your back and just say to yourself, no, Festus, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to allow this to happen. I was telling somebody, he said, when you meet, when you look at people who come from, somebody was saying recently, said people who come from single parent families are not likely going to be successful in marriage, that the statistics use. I said, well, statistics can be anything. I said, I have come from that kind of family background, but I have allowed it to help me to shape the kind of family I want to have. And I know several people who have been in that shoe as well. Statistics also shows that if you marry a black person, you are less likely going to be successful financially compared to marrying a white person using an American statistics. When you look at Caucasian financial profile and compared to African American, the disparity is wide. So you as a young black person, you are more likely to, if you base on your life on statistics, but is that all you want to base your life on? And say, oh, because my financial goals align with marrying a white person, I'm going to go for a white person. Maybe he's a drunkard, maybe he's, he's an addict to betting. Eventually, those financial goals will not meet. So basically, the truth is that our past must be the bedrock of building our future. The negatives and the positive, we must critically evaluate them and use them positively. That is just what I think will work for each and every one of us.
Thank you so much, sir. Without a shadow of doubt, I'm sure we have been blessed immensely by this session. This session, I'm sure, has practically raised a lot of people's social quotient from 0 to 100. We've been blessed a lot. Of course, we have that responsibility to go and to listen to this again and go and be blessed with it. And by God's grace, by the time we post this on our social media, I want to encourage, please make sure you like, comment, and share it to as many people that you think this is going to be a blessing to. So thank you so much. Thank you so much, Pastor Dr. Festus.